Did you know that you're probably making mistakes in COD Mobile that you don't even realize? Well, after years of playing COD Mobile, I'll be sharing 10 common mistakes that make you a noob, all the way from some minor to major mistakes that ruin your gameplay. So grab your popcorn and let's get started. Alright, so we're starting off with some minor mistakes, and the first one is ignoring high ground. You see, most people when they're playing ignore high grounds in the map like crates and boxes, and instead they fight from lower positions. But you have to make sure that you're always fighting your enemies from a high ground by being on top of these crates and boxes, because when you're at a high ground, your bullets will land more accurately on your enemies and you'll be hitting their upper body like their head and chest, and this significantly increases the chance of you winning the fight against your opponents. This also puts your enemies at a disadvantage because you'll be able to see your enemies before they see you. The next mistake that you're probably making is re-peeking from the same angle. You see, if an enemy knows where you are and you peek from that same angle again, then you'll obviously get killed. What you should do instead is re-engage your enemy from a different angle and surprise them from a new location. This works 99% of the time because most people will think you're still in the previous spot and they won't expect you to kill them from another angle. This trick works very well in maps like Raid and Standoff. I use this trick all the time when I'm playing Search and Destroy, and it's a really powerful way of outsmarting your enemies. The next mistake is using your score streaks at the wrong time. The thing is that most people spam their score streaks as soon as they unlock them, which is a very bad idea. You should always use your score streaks with strategy. For example, using a shocker C when an enemy is trying to capture a flag, or another example would be to use your predator missile when an enemy is at the hard point.
Hostiles have the hard point.
This way you're helping your team instead of wasting your score streaks randomly for no reason. And the best part is that doing this helps you rank up faster, because when you're helping your team, the chances of you winning the fight increases by a significant amount. So make sure that you're being strategic with your score streaks. Alright, so now it's time to talk about some even bigger mistakes that are making you a noob. And the first big mistake that most people make has to do with aiming your weapon. When an enemy comes in front of you, most people panic and scope in with their weapon as if they're fighting from far away. But what you should be doing is when an enemy is extremely close to you, you should fire your weapon without aiming down sights. This allows you to land more shots on your opponents, which is very important for surviving fights at close range. You also have to keep in mind that when you're aiming, your movement slows down significantly, and when you're not aiming, you can move a lot faster. So if you want to win more fights at close range, then make sure to not make this mistake. The next mistake is a mistake that ruins your game sense. You see, most people forget that they have things like a grenade or a smoke grenade and they just play the game without using them at all. But for example, you can throw a flashbang inside a building, and if you get a hit marker, that means somebody is camping inside that building. Or you can use smoke grenades to cover lanes and rush through important routes in the map. You can even cook grenades and throw them at campers to kill them without risking your own life. If you use your tacticals and lethals, you're relying less on your primary weapon, which makes you win more fights. So don't make the mistake of not using these when you're fighting. Now have a look at these two clips and see if you can tell the difference. Well, on the first clip, the player wasn't able to win the fight because he got killed, but on the second clip, he was able to kill the enemy and win the fight. But why did the first guy lose the fight? Well, it's because he was pointing his crosshair down, which caused him to have a bad aim. This is why it's important to keep your crosshair pointing up instead of having it facing down. That way, when an enemy comes in front of you, your aim will automatically be at the enemy's body and you can easily get the kill. So make sure that you're not making the mistake of having your crosshair facing down. Okay, so now we're moving on to the major mistakes that are causing you to become a noob. The first major mistake has to do with how you rush. The thing is that as soon as a match starts, most people rush through the middle of the map like everyone else, which causes them to die. What you really should be doing is that you have to use the side lanes of the map and rush through these lanes when a match begins. The side lanes are way less crowded in every map and they tend to have a lot of natural covers like cars and other obstacles. On the other hand, if you're rushing through the middle lane, you're risking your life because there's almost no cover at all and all the enemies are in that lane. Besides, if you're using the side lanes, you can surprise your enemies by taking unconventional routes, so don't make the mistake of rushing through the middle lane. The next mistake that you're probably making is switching to your knife. A lot of people like to switch to their knife when they're rushing, mainly because it looks cool, but this just puts you in a vulnerability. What you should do is that you should only switch to your knife when you're rushing towards a location of the map, because this allows you to run faster. You see, when you're pulling out your knife in the wrong situation, you're not gonna have your primary weapon in your hand, meaning you're not prepared for a gunfight. But But when you have your weapon in hand instead of your knife, you're fully prepared and you can directly aim and kill your enemy. So make sure you're not using your knife in the wrong situation. Moving on to the next mistake, this is gonna be the most common mistake that everyone makes. You see, people make the mistake of reloading their weapon even if they just fired one single bullet, but the only time when you should be reloading is after having a fight or when you're genuinely low in bullets. You always have to remember the downsides of reloading, like the fact that reloading slows down your movement and makes you an easy target. That's why when you're being mindful about reloading your weapon, you're not just saving bullets, but you're also improving your overall gameplay. So don't make the mistake of reloading for no reason. And I'm sure that sometimes your connection is not that great, which causes you to face lag when you're playing, but if you use an app like GearUp, you can reduce that lag by a significant amount because this app reduces your ping. GearUp works by connecting you to the best servers of COD Mobile, which improves your latency. It even makes your game run more smoothly if you're on a low-end device. I'll leave the link to download GearUp on the description, so make sure to use it when you're playing. With that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed this video and I'll see you on the next one. Peace out.